Hello, CraftyAndy here, and these are my thoughts. Life is full of ironies, and one of them is how expensive it is to be poor, and I have the experience to prove it, along with a number of supporting articles. But a true story, is much more fun to share. Me and my first husband of our family moved to a new state and into a friend's house for a time until we were able to scrape enough together to get an apartment. The week we were moving into our apartment, there was an accident and our only working car was totaled. The lease was already signed. There was no getting out of it. And so here we are in our new place with no car and where the buses don't run. Oh, there was one bus stop roughly a mile's walk away that had one time of arrival and one time of returning. However, after one weekend of taking the bus, I think it was because of my husband having no car at the moment, which caused him to lose the contract that he was currently working for the same week we moved in. So now we have no working vehicle, one income, and after paying for an expensive moving van and car rental for the little stuff that we still had. One of the things I recall was years ago, a gentleman on Facebook had an issue with his employee showing up to work late due to the bus. And he was making a big statement how people who take the bus don't deserve to have a job. It's not my fault your bus made you late. You should just get fired because any half intelligent person can scrounge up $200, $300 and get a car easily and fix it up so that it's running. Okay, well, first of all, fuck that guy. Second of all, who's to assume that a person knows how to work on a vehicle to get something that's broken working? So many factors that are involved here. First, you need a job to get the money. Not everyone has mommy and daddy with $200 and $300 on hand to just hand out to you. So there's that first issue. The second issue is knowing how to work on the goddamn vehicle. Third issue is, even if you know how to work on the goddamn vehicle, how expensive is that going to be to get the parts, let alone have the ability to work on the vehicle with the right tools? You need a jack, you need ratchets, screwdrivers, all this stupid shit adds up. And if you want to take it to a mechanic, well, you're pretty much going to be paying the same price for all of that material. He wasn't the only one that had this mentality. I don't know where this mentality comes from where you think it's just so fucking easy. Oh, you don't like the area that you live in? Just move. You don't like the car that you have? Just get a new one.
Damn, my phone is so old and messed up.
Just buy a new one. Your card was declined.
It took about a month for my husband to get a new contract, and having to settle for a massive pay cut compared to the last two, this set us up to be behind in bills throughout the next year. We had to decide which bill was going to be late because the rent late fee was way higher, which we ended up paying anyways. Already we were being nickeled and dimed away from any potential savings. We were both working now, however there was no reliable vehicle for us still. So every morning we would get up at 6 a.m., walk the mile and a half to catch the one and only time the bus comes in the morning to take my husband to work. $2 a day, 5 days a week, with no transport back home, with the choices of either relying on coworkers or Uber and Lyft. My work was closer but later in the day, so it was either arrive 6 hours early, pay the $15 for an Uber Lyft, or walk the 2 hours to work for free. I walked the distance. Sometimes I got rides from Good Samaritans to work. I got myself a nice leather coat out of the deal too. One day I was walking along and this lady yelled at me from her car. "Can I bless you with this coat? I see you walking every day. It looks like something you might need." And just like that, I had a winter coat. I actually encountered a ferret on the way to work at one point. It was immediately recognizable out in the field. First thing it did was try to climb up my leg. Thankfully, there was a park nearby with some manager there that was able to call it in. Another notable encounter was a grass snake roaming around the street, barely missing cars. I managed to push it off the road into the grass, and it thanked me by biting the shit out of my shoe. You know, it's a small, tiny ass thing, so it wasn't gonna get through that. But other than that, most of the time it's just very uneventful walks to and from work, most of the time without a sidewalk. Really, the only major concern at night was just running into deer, which, if you don't know, the bucks can be very aggressive during the summer and spring periods. I inevitably made some friends who would occasionally take me home after work, but most of the time it was walking the distance, 2 hours to and then 2 hours back from the workplace. It would be midnight by the time I got home, so it was straight to bed in order to wake up on time and do it all again the next day. My husband's commute to work was a lot longer, so we ended up having to occasionally pay the $25 for Uber that day, along with $20 a week for a coworker to take him home. We had a lot of our stuff in storage, so the only bed we had was an air mattress that would wear out in roughly about a month, so that's $60 a month for a size we could both fit on. It also served as our couch, with the computers on top of boxes. All our things were an 8-hour drive away in Michigan storage for $125 a month. The rent was $900. The utilities were roughly $200, including the late fees that were tacked on top. One thing I have to mention, even though we were paying another fee to use the washer and dryer within our apartment, before that, living in Michigan, we had something worse. Much, much worse. Laundromats. Do you know what it's like to use a laundromat? It's a fucking nightmare. Hours of the day would involve doing laundry, spending $10 to wash clothes, and then almost another $10 just to dry the things in a big, underpowered dryer that's not even worth a snake's dick cheese. Half the day seemed to be sucked away from the goddamn laundromat. There are so many things that are coming back to me as I go through these online lists that share my sentiment. We had a second car that broke its timing belt a long time ago and couldn't afford the repairs. So it sat there in the street for a week until it got towed to an impound lot. Couldn't afford the impound fee, so I was going to turn over the title. Except I couldn't get the time to get out there when they were open because of my work hours and being unable to afford a unpaid day off. It would be months before I could finally get the time, except when I called to find it, it was gone. After looking into it, it takes about 30 days and then they sell off the vehicle. This is not too long after we helped a friend get himself out of jail because there was a ticket that he never paid. However, when they called up the police department to find out the status of the ticket, they couldn't find it, and so they thought everything was good and done with. Until one day when he was driving and he got pulled over and put into jail. And then the fees would have racked up over the weekend if me, my husband, and his family didn't pitch in to get him out. So I was concerned that the same thing was happening to me, only with this fucking car. Luckily, 8 years later, nothing's happened, so I think I'm in the clear. Also, when it comes to food, we couldn't afford to buy bulky items, so it was very selective. Steaks, ground round, some bread, maybe some milk. Not really a lot of options, especially since I had to carry the load all the way back from the grocery store on foot. Again, to save money from using Uber. When it finally did come time to get a vehicle, it was a beater and has its own story behind it. Repairs were expensive, so out come the payday loans. A doom cycle that we would struggle to dig our way out of for the next year or so. A $500 2-week loan would cost $35. Because of our situation, it's no wonder why in 2 weeks we would pay back the loan, only to take it out again in order to get by, paying that $35 fee each time we take it out. I know there's a lot of talks of people who get sucked into paying the $35 fee for something they took out months ago, but no, I can't stress enough how fucked it is to hear a lot of people not pay back the money. When you get paid, you pay back the money so you can take out another loan. Anyways, then there is the mental strain on relationships, friendships, having to ask for help. I remember one time, to avoid a late fee for the rent, after taking the 45-minute walk to the grocery store, I spent another 2 hours in the public restroom crying and stressing out over working up the nerve to ask a longtime friend for a little money to help us through that month, because I felt like I exhausted every other option with family and other friends. I love how you have the sentiment that the poor are generally irresponsible with their money, when in reality you have no choice but to be responsible with your money or you're shit out of luck. There are no big trips, no extravagant purchases. Logging into your bank account multiple times a day is your new hobby. Once you are in that dip, the cards are all stacked against you. There cannot be any wasted movements. I couldn't even have time to think of any real projects to do art-wise or video-wise for the internet. It was just an adventure to survive. I think the biggest risk we took was getting our stuff out of storage. One day we said, fuck it, we're getting our shit. Because the way contracts are in this gig economy, my husband was not allowed any regular days off normally. It was a battle just to get that day off in order to get our stuff. In the long run, it made sense in order to end that $125 that was coming out every month to keep it all there. There was a problem, and it takes some explaining to understand. The bank call center I worked at would not allow direct deposits other than it being into an account with that very bank. However, long before I got that job, I had an account forcibly closed with them due to a massive overdraft that was already paid off during my previous situation with the insurance multi-level marketing company. So I had no choice but to get my paycheck in the mail. That week, the paycheck was late in arriving. Because of course, it had to be when you need it the most. Fuck my life. So now we had no money to pay for the moving van reserved for us on the only weekend we could really do this together. There would not be a bank account for me over the next 3 years. I would overdraft my account $500, which was around the cost of the moving van rental. We had enough to scrape by when it came to gas, however the overdraft fees would get too much to afford, so I just had my account closed. All this was so that we didn't starve and to finally stop having to deal with our computer sitting on boxes. It was another nightmare. The trip up there had to be done in one 8-hour drive. Because my husband could not take off another day to do this, all the packing and driving had to be done the next morning after securing the moving van. There was very little time to even say hi to the friends we left up there in Michigan. It became surreal driving all the way back in separate vehicles near the end, both of us exhausted, yelling at each other through our phones in order to try to keep ourselves awake. Unpacking was completely done by both of us the third day. The table, chairs, shelves, cookware, books, silverware, desks, games, hours of exhausting work, and it was over. All because we could not afford an extra day off, let alone any more time to use the car and moving van rental. Despite the fact it nearly made us completely destitute, again putting us behind utility payments and making us late for rent, it did become a turning point. A lot of discipline, patience, and we were able to dig our way out of the payday loans. Took out a car loan with a shitty interest rate in order to no longer have to worry about insane repair costs. Another factor for you there. If you don't have the credit score, you pay more for every type of loan. My point is, it's expensive being poor. It involved a lot of busting ass, perseverance, and to say luck didn't play any factor in getting out of our path of poverty would just be dishonest. I could list over 9,000 ways our asses could have been fucked like an elephant baiting a mouse, but I think you can all see that yourselves without me spoon-feeding it to you. In the end, these are just my thoughts. Got any of your own? I stream every day on Twitch, link down below. Art prints are for sale at the Art Pile store, commissions open. Patreon if you want to see early videos and artwork. Subscribe, like, share, got it.